Uno, adelante.
Estimadas autoridades gubernamentales de la alimentación escolar de América Latina y el Caribe, estimados colegas de las embajadas de Brasil y de los países de América Latina y el Caribe, estimados colegas de la FAO en nuestra región y del CARICOM, muy buenos días a todos y a todas. Antes de dar inicio a ese evento, informo que contamos con traducción disponible en español,
Interpreting
inglés,
services available in Spanish, English, and Portuguese. If you would like to make use of the interpreting, be sure to locate the globe on your toolbar on the bottom of your screen. We are also streaming live on YouTube in 3 languages.
Available in English, Spanish, and Portuguese in the Zoom platform and on YouTube as well. To change the interpretation to your language in the Zoom platform, use the button below on the bar on your screen. You can also find the YouTube link in English at the UNFAO YouTube. Antes de começar esse evento, informo que temos tradução disponível em português, espanhol e inglês na plataforma Zoom. Para mudar a interpretação do Zoom, use o botão no canto inferior de sua tela. E para aqueles conectados pelo YouTube, temos o link dessa transmissão em português. Les pido también muy amablemente que escriban.
I would also like to kindly request that you write your name, position, and the country you are representing in the chat box. This is very important information for all of us. Now we are poised to begin this virtual event. I am Paulo Beraldo. I'm a communicator at FAO in charge of the RAES network, the Sustainable School Feeding Network. And today I will be your master of ceremonies. I would like to just briefly talk about today's agenda. During today's event, we will have the opportunity to exchange information with regard to the formal membership process to join RAES. We will refer to the analysis of the maturity of the various sustainable school feeding systems within the network. We will also hear from Brazilian ministry representatives who will talk about how this topic has been addressed internationally, globally. We will also hear about how the Alliance Against Hunger was launched as part of the most recent summit in Brazil. Now we will, again, I would just like to mention that we will be available to answer any of your questions via email. We will also be publishing the content of this event on the RAES network so that you may learn more about the membership process. Prior to beginning all of our formal activities, I would like to request that you all activate your cameras so that we can take a picture of everyone joining us here today.
Ana, si me puedes ayudar con las fotos, también otros colegas, para que saquemos
a little support from our colleagues regarding the pictures.
Sí.
¿Hay algún colega con el micrófono abierto? Y diría también a todos
Someone
si
has
pueden
their microphone open. Please silence all of your microphones. We have to take many pictures. There are more than 120 individuals joining us here today. How wonderful. We are ready with the picture. So now we may continue. This activity is being carried out within the FAO Brazil Framework Cooperation Program. This is through the different ministries as well as the Brazilian Cooperation Agency and the National Fund for Educational Development and Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. These are the 3 partner organizations making up the network. The network was founded in 2018 in order to foster progress with regard to school feeding systems in the region. And since again, this has been launched by the three different partners throughout the region. Now, after many years, we are currently facing a crucial moment for the network in terms of its institutional arrangements. The formal membership or adhesion of the countries to the network constitutes a significant advancement with regard to Brazil and FAO's work and the region's work with regard to finding better solutions for school feeding. With regard to this concept, this principle of the right to nutritious and food. Now, 26 countries from Latin America and the Caribbean region will be joining us within the network, and this network has been a key forum for dialogue and for sharing experiences, all in order to make greater progress with regard to the sustainable school feeding systems nationally, regionally, and locally. So now we will hear from the regional representative and deputy director of FAO for the region, Mr. Mario Lubetkin. Distinguished school food authorities of Latin America and Caribbean countries, it is indeed an honor to address you today regarding the efforts to eradicate hunger and malnutrition. According to the most recent report on the state of food security and nutrition in the world, known as SOFI 2024, which was recently presented at the G20 meeting in Rio, world hunger figures have been persistently high for 3 consecutive years, amounting to even 733 million people in 2023. In our region, the percentage of individuals living with hunger rose from 5.6 in 2019 to 6.9 in 2021. However, significant progress has been recorded in recent years, amounting to 6.2% in 2023. This means that, fortunately, there are 4.3 million fewer individuals who are going hungry, thanks primarily to recovery in South America. And although progress is encouraging, we have to be vigilant because the rate continues to be very high, much higher, in fact, than before the pandemic, when 41 million people in the region still suffer from hunger. So we are at a crucial moment, a crossroads, and then we must redouble our efforts to make progress in the fight against hunger and ensure that we do not take any steps backwards. In this context, school feeding programs play a key role in ensuring food security, improving nutrition, and guaranteeing the human right to adequate food. These programs currently benefit approximately 85 million students in Latin America and the Caribbean, making them a powerful policy tool to meet this challenge of eradicating hunger and malnutrition. School feeding can not only contribute to this goal, but it can also support the development of healthy eating habits, beginning in childhood and fostering citizens who are aware of the impact of food on their own health and on the health of our planet. In 2019, our region actually launched an initiative that has played a key role in promoting dialogue and in sharing experiences, all with the view to ensure that countries have more sustainable school feeding programs. And I'm referring to the Sustainable School Feeding Network, known as the RAES network. This network is the outcome of joint efforts by the government of Brazil through the Brazilian Cooperation Agency and the National Education Development Fund, and naturally with FAO as the executive secretariat. Since implemented, at least 26 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean have participated in the RAES network initiative, and they have contributed significantly to fighting against hunger and reducing poverty, while supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The RAES network, in fact, has emerged as a key player in school feeding in Latin America and the Caribbean, and its contributions are fundamental for consolidating international partnerships and initiatives, such as the implementation of the Food, a nutrition security plan of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, or CELAC, or the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, now launched in Rio de Janeiro by the presidency of the G20 through President Lula. More and more countries are requesting our technical support to strengthen and promote food security strategies. During this period, we have visited many extraordinary feeding experiences throughout the region, which confirms and reaffirms the importance of staying the course. At FAO, we are honored to play the role of Executive Secretary of the RAES network, and we thank the government of Brazil for having developed and implemented this valuable strategy. I encourage the governments of our region to join these dialogues and to jointly propose actions and solutions that are needed to achieve the international goals set to eradicate poverty, hunger, and inequality. School feeding programs represent a powerful tool in this effort. Let us continue working together in strengthening the formal membership or adhesion of the countries to the RISE network. Together, we can move towards better production, better nutrition, better environment, and ultimately a better life while leaving no one behind.
Agradecemos mucho las palabras del señor
I'd
Mario
like to
Lubetsky
thank Mario Lubetskin's remarks and the support of FAO as Executive Secretariat of RAES. I'll offer the floor now to Luisa Lopez da Silva. She's Deputy Director of ABC, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Brazil. Luisa, you have 5 minutes.
Muito bom dia a todas e a todos. Queria agradecer por terem atendido a esse nosso
I would like
convite
to
uma conversa
thank
nessa sexta-feira,
your
viernes,
kind invitation to have such an interesting discussion on one of our favorite topics of Brazilian cooperation for so many years. My favorite, I mean, we cannot see these as a complete work. We're always thinking of what else we can do, how we can improve all these national efforts, which are seen as part of these hemispheric cooperation, which for us is a top priority, offering lots of benefits which may expand in multiple ways. Let me greet the authorities from RAES, from Latin America and Caribbean, the representatives from the various embassies for those countries. In Brazil, we have several diplomats and ambassadors in Brasilia. We also have Fernando. I mean, welcome all of you. Let me greet the representatives and colleagues from Itamaraty, representatives from Latin America and the Caribbean, and the UNDP and Rome office, all the representatives from the think tanks of against hunger in Brazil. Our partners, we are working in multiple initiatives. The FAO representative in Brazil, Israel, Mr. Israel. Greetings for you too, and most especially the chair of FNDU, Fernando Paco Maia, from the National Fund of Education Development, our partner, a great friend for so long. So we're sharing this opening of this event. Let me say that school feeding is one of the favorite topics of Brazilian cooperation, both in our internal work fighting against hunger, as well as mitigating social problems and related to family farming. So again, it's one of our favorite projects, and it is of great importance for all of us. Brazil has always been paying attention to this, thinking of what else we can do. We always say, what's the next step? So back in 2008, we introduced a proposal to our sustainable school feeding network, and we started our work back in 2018, but we're not pleased yet. We want to make this network official.
organizada,
because that way we
metas
can
mais
work in a more
específicas,
organized manner.
nós
We
acreditamos
can
que isso
set
vai
more specific
formatar melhor
goals, and we
os
believe that
objetivos
that
e
will offer a
sucessos.
better format
Então, é
as to
esse o
our
convite que nós
goals to be
estamos
successful.
reforçando hoje
That
na
is the
nossa reunião
invitation
a
which
todos os
we are now
países para que
extending to this meeting
aprovem a
to all
sua
the countries
adesão oficial à
so
rede
that
de
they can
alimentação escolar
approve the
sustentável
official
da
addition
nossa
to
região. Nós
the
acreditamos que
sustainable
com esse
school
formato nós vamos
feeding
facilitar
network. We
elas
believe
ainda
that within
mais
this format,
robustos. Para a Agência Brasileira de
we will have a
Cooperação,
more
na
robust work.
qualidade
For
de
the
coordenadora
Brazilian
do
Cooperation
Sistema
Agency,
Brasileiro de
as a
Cooperação
coordinator
Internacional,
of the
é com
Brazilian system
motivo de
of
grande
international
orgulho e
cooperation,
satisfação observar todos os
we're
passos
very
dados
proud,
até
we're
agora,
very
o
pleased
crescimento e
when we
fortalecimento da
see all
rede
the
ainda
steps
na sua
taken so
categoria,
far,
na sua
the
fase,
growth of this
como poderia
network,
dizer, desde
this
2018,
informal
nós
phase, so to speak,
sempre
since
convidando a todos
2018.
para
And
serem agrupados.
today,
A rede,
we're inviting
para aqueles
everyone
que
to
ainda são
formally
novos,
join this network.
pode
This
ser um
network,
espelho
for
de uma
those who
mesa
are still
de
new
conduta
to this
e
topic,
participativa
aims at
permitir que os países da região criem
allowing
soluções para os
countries
desafios da
to
alimentação escolar.
create or
E esses
look for
desafios
solutions
vão
to
se
challenges of
desdobrando
school
e
feeding
vão
in
se
a joint
tornando
manner.
cada
These
vez mais
challenges are being
sofisticados.
deployed,
Para nós, a alimentação escolar
are
tem um
becoming more and more
componente,
sophisticated, more challenging.
nutricional,
School feeding
tem
already
componente
has a
participativo.
nutritional
E
component
ele já começa a se
and
vincular na agenda familiar em
participation,
vários
engagement
países e
component,
também
and it relates to family
dentro
farming
do
multiple, in
SASP.
several countries
Então, nós
already,
vemos esse
as well
avançar
as
enorme, está tendo muitos
organic,
desenvolvimentos, muitas possibilidades.
non-processed food.
Vamos
And we see lots of
satisfazer uma
possibilities
etapa
here.
atual. Queremos ainda evoluir muito
We're
mais,
not fully
ver enorme
pleased
potencial
at this
nesse
stage. We
tema.
want to go even
Muitos
further
desafios
beyond.
já foram vencidos, mas nós estamos vendo
Many of
ainda
these
algumas
challenges have been
soluções
already
pela
dealt
frente.
with,
Como eu falei,
yet
interação
there are
feita,
still some
feita com a agricultura familiar
for the
e
future.
também
So
tem
we do
repercussões
have a
sociais
closer relationship with
importantes,
family farming, which has a social
desenvolvimentos
impact
orgânicos, aperfeiçoando
by
infraestruturas
providing
e
organic food,
também
improving the
os espaços de
infrastructure,
alimentação escolar que nós
as well as
disponibilizamos
the family
em toda a
or
rede
the school feeding
pública do nosso
opportunities and
país,
spaces we have in our
de forma muito
public
especial a
education
ampliação
network
dos
in our
mecanismos
countries,
de
and more
controle
especially
social.
the
E aí
extension of
entrando todos os
social
pais,
control
mestres,
mechanisms,
nutricionistas,
including all the school
próprios
feeding programs,
agricultores
nutrition
e
experts,
então todos eles têm muito a
farmers, for
contribuir
family
a partir da
farmers.
sua ótica.
They all
Desde
have lots to
2008,
contribute
Brasil e FAO,
from
quando o
their
Brasil e
own
FAO lançaram
systems.
essa ideia ainda na
Brazil and
FAO,
FAO, when they first
eu
introduced this
diria,
idea
a
or this
preliminar,
format,
nós
I would
temos
say
trabalhado junto com a
draft
FNDE e
preliminary
com a FAO
format. We've been
para
working
seguir
with the
fortalecendo esse
FNDE
trabalho.
and
Para o
FAO
ABC é uma
to
prioridade
strengthen that
compartilhar
work
toda a
for
informação
the
e a
Brazilian
aplicar nas
Cooperation
quase 7
Agency. It's
décadas
a
que
pleasure
nós
sharing
reconhecemos o
all our
resultado de
lessons for
várias
so many
gerações.
decades,
Ele
and
começou
we
lá
acknowledge
atrás e os
this is
governos
work
já
done by
vão
several
já estudando esses
generations.
livros de história dos anos 40 e
It
50.
started
Então,
at
cada
different
governo
governments back
aqui e
in the
ali foi
40s, in the
fazendo
50s,
esforço
and
e
each
conseguindo,
government,
mas nos
each
últimos anos,
administration
essa
has made their
construção
own
dessa
efforts to
termodinâmica
build
nova
these system. But
muito
this
mais
construction
acelerada,
in the last few
talvez,
years
pelo
has required
próprio
a new
interesse
dynamic,
dos países
a more a
intervenientes,
faster
a rapidez com que
uh,
essas
a
mudanças
faster
estão
growth because
realizando,
of the interest, because of
tem
the
sido
uh,
realmente excepcional.
fast-paced
Nos últimos, em
development.
2023, ano passado,
It has
o
been
GES
amazing.
demonstrou
Late
o compromisso do governo brasileiro
2023,
com a alimentação
something that shows
escolar
the
na região.
commitment of the Brazilian
Nós
government with
renovamos
school
a
feeding in the
aliança
region
entre
was
ABC,
that we've
nosso
renewed
parceiro,
an
com
alliance
a
between
FAO,
ABC,
para a Agenda
FNDE, our
Regional
partner,
para a
and
Alimentação
FAO
Escolar na América
through the
Latino-Americana.
regional
Esse é o
agenda
guarda-chuva
for
dos trabalhos que
school
nós
feeding for Latin
queremos
America and the Caribbean.
implementar e
This is the
supervisionar
umbrella
hoje.
of all these work, all this effort, which we would like to expand and extend to strengthen the sustainable school feeding network, RAES, guarantee their institutionalization through the formal participation of countries, thus consolidating this mechanism as the speak, as the spoke, as the spokesman of of these effort in Latin America and the Caribbean. For us, this is very important because we're chairing a G20, and we are proposing as a main initiative a global alliance against hunger and poverty. Thus, this is strategic. This is a key to our school feeding programs. Brazil is chairing the G20, which we believe is an opportunity to have more partners on board and more support to this initiative. Let me close by saying that we should ask countries to join in this regional effort to guarantee that all students from our countries have the right to food and food security and nutrition every day in the school years. I wish you all a great meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you, Luisa, and the Brazilian Agency of Cooperation for their support in developing the capabilities and the exchange of experiences promoted in our region in this historical alliance with FAO and the National Fund. We've lots of authorities, government authorities for over 22 countries in the region, two vice ministers, professionals from Brazilian embassies in the countries of the region, and the diplomatic corps in Latin America and the Caribbean. We have colleagues from the Caribbean and the presence of Maria Zanesi on behalf of the Center of Excellence Against Hunger in Brazil, which is the World Food Program, Lara Lopez, along with FAO, FAO in Rome, Melissa Vargas from the Nutrition Department of FAO Rome, and Valentina Giordano with the World Food Forum from Rome. These high-level attendees today shows this growing interest of RAES has in our region, as well as the importance of governments give to this network. On behalf of RAES, again, I'd like to thank you for your attendance and commitment. You are RAES, and that, of course, will contribute to the strengthening and the success of our regional initiatives. Now, we will have Fernando Paco Baiba. She's the chair of the FNDE for her opening remarks and share with us the next step, along with the RAES member countries, the analysis of maturity of programs in the region. Fernanda, you have the floor. You have 10 minutes.
Bom dia a todas e todos. Não gastarei 10 minutos, tá, Paulo?
Good morning, everyone. I will not take up 10 minutes. I will be brief. It is an honor for us to participate again in an event related to sustainable school feeding programs. As the president of the FNDE, I represent that organization, as well as I am representing Minister Santana. And we wish you a very prosperous relationship going forward in the network. Again, it was an honor for me to take part in this event. I would like to greet all of the individuals present here today on behalf of Mario Lubetkin. We already heard his video message. We have also heard from, I would like to greet Mr. Israel and FAO across the board, all of the FAO workers, and dear Ambassador Luisa Lopez from ABC. They have been unwavering unwavering partner for the FNDE. Now, we have been able to go beyond the domestic borders and take part in the rest of the world with regard to these activities. So thank you, Ms. Lopez. I would like to greet all of the other authorities, vice ministers, etc., all of the different representatives of the Latin American and Caribbean nations present here today. Allow me to greet the operational experts and team members from all the different countries, those of you who are very familiar with our school feeding programs. We are working jointly with all the various communities and family farming network. I would also like to greet Dr. Karina Santos from FAO. We are very pleased to be here today with you to celebrate the school feeding network and programs in Latin America and the Caribbean. Now, over the years, our sustainable school feeding network has grown. It's been quite impressive. This has become a legitimate space as well for dialogue and cooperation. This has been a very effective opportunity for exchange, and this has allowed Brazil to offer knowledge and to learn from the countries throughout the region as well. This community is very important as far as strategy and policy are concerned, and we have an opportunity to further build these ties between the different countries. And thanks to this, we can build innovative solutions for the different challenges we all face. We have been able to gather knowledge as well and to gather good practices, I would dare say, in addition to the various ideal practices that have emerged throughout the countries that are part of our region. We continue to be committed to FAO and to the partners, our partners throughout the region. So I want to let you know that we are all working here together in this current phase so that we may continue moving forward and building stronger, better, sustainable school feeding programs so that they may continue to have a positive impact on health, education, and on the socioeconomic context of many children and their families. School feeding, as we view it, is not just a measure for social assistance, social welfare. School feeding is a priority. It allows us to have better education. Children cannot learn if they're hungry. So this is one of the challenges we must tackle. And our president, Lula, has made it very clear that this program is very important. Our national school feeding program is very important. And now we have countries that have joined this platform. And so we will build greater capacity on our platform. Our group is the network that is increasingly committed to expanding sustainable school feeding. We are working to eradicate hunger and poverty. And next year, COP30, which will be held in Belém, in the province of Pará, in the Amazon region of Brazil. At that meeting, clearly this issue will be addressed. And it's a topic that binds us all together as countries. The idea is that we continue working on this while striving to maintain the quality of life that we all deserve. This is not possible if we do not have good examples. This partnership, this coalition will allow us to share experiences through the RAES platform, and what we have done in our region will be shared with the rest of the planet. Clearly, we are leaders in the global context with regard to this, and the RAES platform and network will allow us to showcase what we have done. These good practices must be linked to clear evidence. It's quite impressive to see the technological advances that we have witnessed over the years on the planet. I think it's impressive, in fact, but at the same time, this needs to be part of our public policies. We need to have public policies that are data-based and that have been designed in keeping with that information. We need to know what structure, what design are required so that we can better share information. And that is why FAO, when Pablo spoke to all of you during his opening remarks, he referred to what we are doing domestically, internally. We are assessing the maturity of the different school feeding programs as part of this overall effort. I just want you to understand the idea. This is an idea that emerged as a result of a maturity assessment or analysis that we are carrying out in Brazil in terms of fiscal aspects. So this maturity analysis is simply a tool that allows us to assess any public policy. And what we did was design it, bearing in mind school feeding programs. And we know that when you develop public policy, you need to have sufficient space, and you need to assess all the different components of said development process and the policy so that we know what their status is, so that we can then take the necessary measures to move into the next stage. So the maturity assessment assesses the different stages of development, and we need to know which partners are in the early stages so that we can determine what they need to do, to what steps are necessary to move to the next stages. For example, what funding is necessary, etc. And so thanks to the maturity analysis of the SFPs in Brazil, we will have a clear idea as to the current context, and this will allow us to optimize our work. This is a very important tool, in fact, that will allow us to further develop the SFPs and thus identify the best practices and subsequently close all the gaps. We are also working on institutionalizing the Brazilian school feeding policy in Brasilia on the 12th and 13th of September this year. We will have an event with roughly 1,000 individuals, and we will be referring to the national school feeding policy. This goes beyond the national program. This is something that will allow us. Well, in Brazil, we have a federal system, and this will allow us to have a greater connection between the national program and the federal policy so that we can reach more children, more boys and girls in a universal fashion. And we will be able to understand the various gaps in our country. And this will allow us to better understand how we are treating our indigenous communities. So this is one event related to the RAES network. And thanks to the information that we will be able to gather, we will carry out more effective initiatives that take into consideration the real context of the different parties involved. And we will also have the opportunity to show the world what we are doing. I would like to conclude by thanking you for the opportunity to speak here today. I would like to again send you greetings on behalf of Minister Santana, who is fully committed to our school feeding program. We are partners, and we want to let you know that we are here to collaborate, cooperate, and we are working very hard for this cause. So thank you to all, and I hope this is a very fruitful event for all of you. Thank you. You made it very clear how important this event is today, the event of adhesion to the network. Now, we are carrying a very cross-cutting dialogue here involving different topics. No, I'm sure that the wealth of experience by the FNDE over all of the years managing the school feeding program will be and already is a benchmark experience for the rest of the countries. Now, prior to moving on with the next speaker, I would like to let you know that we will be hearing from the Minister of Agriculture from St. Lucia, Ms. Constantini. It's an honor to have the minister with us today. We will also be hearing from the GCNF, Maria Mangioli. I would like to invite Ms. Paula Barbieri, a project analyst who will provide us with a brief history of the Sustainable School Feeding Network thus far. Thank you. Ms. Paola, you have 10 minutes.
Muito obrigada, estimado Paulo. Como a embaixadora falou, é prazer,
Thank you,
falar
Paulo.
da rede de alimentação escolar
As
sustentável.
an ambassador, it is quite an honor and pleasure for me to talk about the Sustainable School Feeding Network. But prior to referring to RAES, I also think it's important to provide you with some context. And I would like to refer to the trilateral cooperation that we have seen in Latin America with regard to school feeding programs. School feeding and cooperation relative to school feeding has been broken down into 3 key moments. The first moment period took roughly 10 years. It was launched in 2009 and wrapped up in 2018. Back then, the objective was to strengthen school feeding programs in Latin America and the Caribbean. The second period, or moment in time, lasted 5 years, and that was when we were actually able to consolidate school feeding programs. We are currently involved in the third cycle, and it's just beginning. The goal is to reinforce the school feeding programs throughout our region.
Nossa colega Isabela coloque a apresentação para ficar mais claro também aí
I would like
essa linha
to
histórica,
ask
que nós
Isabella to please show
apresentar,
the
senhores?
presentation so that I can refer to the timeline
Em primeiro,
of the
acho que a
organization.
embaixadora já fez essa situação assim inicial, da RAES.
The ambassador already referred to the early days of the RISE platform, so I think we are able to move on to the timeline. Thank you. The first cycle or stage was when we were launching and consolidating the school feeding programs in Latin America and the Caribbean. Let me point out 2014, which was the year in which the Second International Nutrition Conference was held. At that point in time, the different governments made declarations and showed their commitment to fostering policies to combat or eradicate hunger and poverty. Back then, Brazil committed to setting up 5 networks. The first network was called the Public Food Procurement Network. The second was the network for reducing sodium intake. The third was related to producing food guides. The fourth network is the Governance and Food and Nutrition Security Network. And the fifth and last network is our network, the Sustainable School Feeding Network. Let's move on to 2017. That was when the UN declared the nutrition decade. In 2017, the planning process was launched, and the aim was to define how we were going to set up the school feeding network. Back then, they defined 3 different axes, and they focused on this concept of a platform. These principles still reign today. The first axis was exchanging experiences. The second was aimed at personnel training, and the third was aimed at sharing and disseminating information. Back in 2018, as mentioned by the ambassador, the network was actually launched in Buenos Aires, and 17 countries took part in that event. There was an event held in Buenos Aires, as I mentioned, to launch the network. Next slide, please. In 2019, the network held its first meeting in Rio de Janeiro. That's when the letter of intent was signed, underlining the importance of school feeding as a mechanism for action to achieve the SDGs. At that point in time, there were a variety of different exchanges with the different countries. Some countries came to our country to become familiar with our experience. And at the same time, we began holding training courses regarding school feeding. The first course was called a diploma in 12 countries. There was a practical experience as well involving a variety of different professionals who took part in the training experience. In 2020, well, that was during the pandemic, and clearly a variety of different difficulties were faced with regard to expanding the network. Now, despite these challenges, the network was consolidated even further thanks to the different regional dialogues that were held. The countries referred to how they were able to deliver food during the pandemic. And in fact, several different courses were launched virtually. For example, there was the first edition of the Healthy Life course, which was provided to 1,800 professionals, and then 2021, there were many countries taking part in that course, and the countries exchanged a variety of different experiences. In 2022, focal points for the network were appointed, and the governments determined who these focal points were. And in 2023, we held a variety of different activities. Let me point out the Second International Congress on School Feeding, launched by the ABC, and this was part of the RAES mission. This was held in Brasilia. Experiences were exchanged, and at the end of the year, we actually signed the new initiative, launching the third cycle with the objective of drafting the school feeding agenda for Latin America and the Caribbean.
In 2024, as Fernando said, as well as Madam the Ambassador, we would like to strengthen RAES as a regional strategy to support global movements in school feeding programs. That's an alliance against hunger. This meeting today, it's critical to strengthen RAES engagement in this global scenario. We have the proposal study, which will be thoroughly explained later on, and the on-site meeting referred to by Fernanda, which will take place in Brasilia, with the representatives from our network to discuss RAES agenda. We have multiple activities that have taken place. We have a whole list of them, but we can share with you all this material. These are just some highlights so you have an idea of the ideas that have taken place. I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to be here with you and to be part of this such an important topic of school feeding program in this global and regional scenario. There are multiple activities. It's important to learn about this work from by the network. But we'll now have three important guest speakers sharing their views on RAES and their participation in network actions. A representative from the government from El Salvador, Carolina Mejia, a representative from CARICOM. On behalf of the Caribbean countries, Mr. Sean Ball, and the representative for FAO Paraguay, Ivan Leon, on behalf of the national, on behalf of the FAORs. So Carolina Mejia, she's a representative of El Salvador. You have 3 minutes, Carolina. Please go ahead.
Buenos días.
Good morning.
Buenos días.
Good morning. Good morning, Carolina. Good morning. Greetings from the government of El Salvador through the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology. And on behalf of the Latin American countries, I'd like to recognize the Brazilian cooperation and FAO and all the attendees, especially the representative from Brazilian Cooperation, ABC, F, and DE, and representatives from the government of Brazil and FAO for the leadership in these RAES and for their support to each one of the member countries. I'd like to thank RAES and Brazilian Cooperation and FAO for the opportunity to share our experience. El Salvador has had the honor to be part of RAES with over 24 countries. El Salvador was also one of the leading countries in the sustainable school methodology implemented by Brazil FAO cooperation. This has allowed us to be an example and to exchange valuable experiences in topics such as the training of teachers, public procurement of food, implementation of food and nutrition feeding, and to discuss policies, which has been instrumental to improve the school feeding program in our country. The implementation of these activities as a country has allowed us to receive some recognition for our best practices in food and nutritional education. With the implementation of RAES in 2018, we understood that the dialogue among countries would be wider and sounder. And we realized that the challenges of school feeding program were not just a part of our nations, and that by sharing our achievements, national achievements, we could inspire and learn from other countries and move forward in the development and implementation of school feeding strategies. It's important to know that in order to face these challenges and to face the obstacles, we require the technical and financial support from cooperation agencies. This support should promote exchange of experiences, strengthening the capabilities of the school communities, and the adoption of adequate food practices and the promotion of healthy lifestyles. All of that to achieve the sustainable development goals. It's important to note that all the stakeholders in the network, ministers, directors, technicians, teachers, and others, and in school feeding programs, we all acknowledge that the single most important challenges for our countries and the region is to guarantee the human right to adequate food for our tours or for our students. To achieve this goal, we need to strengthen and to consolidate our RAES by having more stakeholders and countries in the effort. Although each country has its own peculiarities, most of us share challenges and goals. Thus, we need to keep mutual support, consolidate a RISE, and continue to add additional efforts. Working as a team, it's a choice to build trust and enhance results. Let's not forget that our children in the region deserve healthy and sustainable food for us, for us all. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, senhora Carolina Mejia, por sus
Thank you,
considerações.
Carolina Mejia, for your remarks. It's really nice to hear from you the importance of this work and the value of the exchange of experiences. Now we will have Mr. Sean Ball on behalf of CARICOM. He will be present on behalf of the Caribbean countries. So we have a great presence of people from the Caribbean today. Mr. Carlisle Pemberton with the Caribbean Agroeconomic Society of the University of West Indies. John, you have 3 minutes, please.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to start by thanking the government of Brazil, the FAO, and all the countries and all the country representatives who have joined this morning. Additionally, I want to salute the team from RAES. The indication of you being here today attests to the importance of the seriousness and also the level of confidence that the country is placing you on the issue of school feeding throughout the Latin American and Caribbean region. For us here in the CARICOM region, we appreciate the working relationship which we have had with the program. We are pleased to have been able to share the various experiences and policy actions under the RAES School Feeding Network over the years. As the saying goes, which we subscribe to, start them right by making them bright. And I say, start them right by making them bright. And this is what it is that we want for our children as we implement our school feeding program. For us here in the Caribbean, we believe that the model that the program presents and that have been developed has several opportunities and benefits that our member states can benefit from. The very design that looks at support for rural farm families in improving their productivity and household incomes. For us, this fits directly into our regional food and nutrition security program, which seeks to transform the region's food security program with the aim of revolutionizing the rural agricultural economies and ultimately, as a part of the larger program, to reduce our food import bill by 25% by the year 2025. Additionally, the program and its benefits seeks to increase school attendance. And for us here in the Caribbean, this is important because it enhances the possibilities of greater human capacity and human development, starting with our small children. Promoting and enhancing a better nutrition and food security among our children, which ultimately we believe enhances the learning capacity and improvements in the overall output of our educational system. This is very important to us here because as we said before, we've been having several meetings, conferences, interaction, consultation, and exchange of ideas. And we have been learning, we've been seeing the importance, we've seen the mechanism, and this has been a positive experience for us. In closing, we welcome the possibilities which the programs can bring to the region, and we look forward to working even closer in achieving our shared goal of no child left behind. We salute the program, we look forward to working on the program, and we're looking forward to even greater relationship and a great rest of day for today. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias, señor Sean Ball, por el apoyo del
Thank you,
CARICOM.
Mr. Bond, for the support from CARICOM and the support to this network. Now we will have the remarks by Ivan Leon, is the power in Paraguay, on behalf of the national representatives in the region. Ivan Leon, you have 3 minutes. You are recognized. Thank you, Paulo. Greetings to all the authorities attending this important meeting, the organization, the multiple stakeholders. It's a real honor to be here with you. And first of all, emphasize the importance of RAES as an institution. Institutionalization of the network has become a key mechanism to contribute to eradicate hunger and poverty in our countries, in the region. We consider that RAES is an example of the significant progress made in the region, driving through the exchange of experiences and best practices, institutional mechanism to support and collaborate. When we talk about institutional action of RAES, we mean feeding of over 80 million of boys and girls in the region, which is an important number. 80 million boys and girls improving their health, improving their academic performance, that through the programs of school feeding are now supporting local economies, allowing for the integration of family farmers. This is productivity of a country's economy. building on sound foundations to make sure those students will have food, quality food to contribute to the well-being of society and youth. As FAO representative in Paraguay, I've had the opportunity to work with the three countries in the region where I believe RAES had made a huge contribution by improving and adapting policy of school feeding in a more effective manner. I believe the network is a governance mechanism which is shared, which is part of a dialogue, allowing the countries to be connected all the time by sharing experiences, lessons learned, but above all, looking for solutions to problems which are common to all countries. RAES, it's a forum for innovation, and this is of extreme importance, which will integrate such innovations in a dynamic manner to the policies and school feeding programs at the local, national, and at the regional level. As an agency, as a cooperation to countries, we believe this is forum. It's important as an ongoing opportunity of open doors. This is an important. This is an opportunity, open opportunity, dynamic opportunity to dialogue and discuss development and how to achieve SDG goals. As a FAO representative, we've been able to develop the cooperation of the organization with rules as a concept. And this is critical. These cooperation among countries where FAO can contribute with knowledge and technical mechanisms has been an example in the region, which should be replicated in other areas. Let me close by commending the countries from Latin America and the Caribbean from the organizations such as Paraguay, the recent adhesion of the Ministry of Social Development, that not only accounts for institutional action, but a state action of a group of organizations committed to the Zero Hunger program. I'd like to commend the government of Paraguay. Thank you very much and congratulations for this important meeting.
Thank you very much. We would like to thank all of you for your comments and remarks. You are clearly referring to how important the RAES network is for supporting school feeding programs. Prior to giving the floor to our next panelist, I would like to mention that we are joined here today by representatives and directors of several different countries and of institutions that have been specifically developed to focus on school feeding. One of these is the Colombian school feeding institution, the WEPA. This is part of the National Ministry of Education, represented by Luis Fernan Correa, their director. And we also joined by the National Institute for Student Well-Being, INAPI, from the Dominican Republic, represented here by various professionals. I would also like to point out the president of Mr. Rafael Zavala, the representative FAO in Guatemala, always a friend and sponsor of RAES for his work when he was representative FAO in Brazil. Now we will hear from Mr. Israel Rios, a nutrition officer from FAO. He has a presentation for us on the details of the joint declaration of commitment to advances in school feeding policy and LAC and the adhesion form. So, Mr. Rios, you have 10 minutes. Go ahead. Thank you for the opportunity to greet all of you joining us here today as part of this adhesion opportunity to the Sustainable School Feeding Network in Latin America and the Caribbean. I would like to refer to some key components of this adhesion opportunity and some of the aspects related to progress with regard to school feeding policy and the commitment to the declaration in Latin America. We have also heard from the FAO regional director and how Sophie refers to the various challenges related to nutrition and hunger and securing sustainable, adequate food. We know that 2019 was a key point in time, and many more individuals fell into hunger. 41 million individuals faced hunger today. They're undernourished, actually. And now the cost of healthy food is the highest in our region when compared to other regions. Obesity, malnutrition, it's all its different forms, lack of access to micronutrients. These are many of the key challenges that our region faces. And with regard to obesity, we see that our region continues to have major issues related to obesity. There's a large number of children and adolescents who are facing obesity. Also, climate change, the rising price of food, in addition to well, all these aspects are lessening access to healthy, nutritious food. And poverty has also had an impact on the supply of school food, affecting many, many children, school-age children. Now, this current situation calls for concrete actions to face the challenges in the region. School feeding programs, in fact, have been recognized as key programs to guarantee appropriate nutrition and food for students, specifically those students facing social vulnerability. These programs are crucial to help address crises of all kinds, and they are key instruments for achieving the various SDGs, such as and as well as a human right to adequate and healthy food. There are many commitments. For example, these involve participating jointly with other countries that are members of the RAES network, all in order to face the current challenges related to developing and improving the school feeding policy and programs. Moreover, we are committed to developing and improving our school feeding programs and policies, and also in order to secure adequate nutrition and support students' development. These commitments also seek to contribute to the various dialogues and experiences exchanged and promoted by the network with a view to developing national school feeding policies. Moreover, defining and jointly building a regional school feeding agenda that actually may contribute to different key priority issues such as financing national programs, coverage, boosting the coverage of the number of students, having better participatory governance, promoting healthy diets, implementing food and nutrition education, ensuring sustainable environments for food storage, preparation and delivery, implementing and strengthening local public procurement for family farming, introduce SAPs to building more inclusive and resilient agri-food systems in the face of climate change challenges are also what we're doing. That's one of our commitments. Another commitment we take on today is to promote the network as a standing, legitimate space for dialogue among Latin American and Caribbean countries so that they may strengthen their school feeding policies and programs, and so that the network may actually meet the regional needs and proposals related to the issue. We're also working together to participate in the joint construction of the guidelines and regulations of the network in order to meet the demands of the member countries as identified by them. Finally, I would like to mention the various documents that you have received in advance. These documents must be signed and delivered by your national authorities in order to secure formal adhesion to the Sustainable School Feeding Network of Latin America and the Caribbean. So on behalf of the school feeding team, Brazil FAO, we are very pleased to see the large number of countries joining the network. So go ahead, Pablo. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Israel, por su
Thank
ponencia.
you,
Quiero
Israel,
mencionar
for your
por aquí
presentation.
y
Allow
agradecer la
me
presencia
to
del embajador de
mention
Trinidad y Tobago en
the
Brasil, señor
presence of the
Gerard
ambassador of
Rigby.
Trinidad and
Y en su
Tobago, Mr.
nombre, a las
Jared
15
Rigby, and on
embajadas que están aquí
behalf,
presentes hoy con nosotros. A partir
thank
de
you for
ahora,
joining us
nosotros
in
vamos a abrir un
representation of
espacio de
the
diálogo para
embassies.
ustedes que están aquí
Now
en este
we
evento
will
con
launch
nosotros.
an
Es un
opportunity to
breve
have a
tiempo
dialogue
en el
with the
cual
various
ustedes
countries. You
podrán
do not
sacar
have much
dudas,
time, but
compartir sus
nonetheless, this is
impresiones de
your
este movimiento que
opportunity
estamos
to ask your
desarrollando en
questions,
la región.
to
Les
submit
invitaría,
any
por favor,
concerns,
a
etc.
manos
So I would
para hacer
like
los
to
comentarios y les
invite you to
solicitamos
raise your
que sean
hand
breves
if you
para
would
que
like to
más
take the
personas
floor.
puedan
And I would also
participar.
like to
Al
invite you to
final, ya somos
please be
150
brief so
personas
that
hoy
we may
en esta
allow
reunión.
as many individuals as possible to take part in this dialogue. Currently, there are more than 150 individuals joining us here on this virtual event today.
¿Alguien tiene la mano alzada? Si me pueden avisar.
Please let me know. Would someone kindly let me know if one of the participants has raised their
Najla
hand?
tiene la mano alzada.
Najla
Adelante,
has
Najla,
raised
por
her hand.
favor.
Go ahead, Najla.
Bueno, mientras los países definen cuáles quieren mencionar su experiencia a
While the
partir
countries
de las
are
RAES,
ruminating
me
over the
gustaría, Paulo,
various
decir
questions and
que
concerns, I
nosotros
would just like to
recibimos
mention
algunos
that
comentarios
we
y
did
algunas
receive
preguntas con
some
relación
remarks
a
and
esta
some
adhesión a la RAES.
questions related to adhesion to the network. So I would like to provide you with some guidelines relative to this process.
Nosotros vamos ofrecer al final. Y un comentario muy importante es
One
que
of these
aquí solo agradecer, porque yo creo que
well, one of the
es
key remarks is
fundamentalmente
how appreciative we are
do ponto de vista histórico lo que se está haciendo ahora.
because
Es
this is a
muito
historic
honor
landmark
para
moment
ABC, para FNDE, para el
for the ABC and the FNDE, for FAO, and for the countries forming part of this network. This is a crucial moment. CARICOM, Friends of CELAC, SICA, and other institutions that have supported us. We know how important this moment is for you as well. We appreciate everything our partners have done. We welcome your comments, your suggestions. Whatever you have to contribute to this moment is truly welcome. The floor is yours.
Ahí ya veo la
Please,
mano alzada de la
one by
señora
one.
ministra Emilia Cortes. Por favor, señora
Madam Minister Emilia Cortes
su
has
micrófono
raised her
está
hand.
apagado.
Please be sure to activate your
Não,
microphone.
eu acho que foi
Agora
um erro, né? Mas
Agora sim.
eu agradeço muito as apresentações e gostaria de saber se,
I would
se
like
vão ser
to thank
compartilhadas, né?
all of you for the presentations, and I just have one question.
Sí, podemos
Will you
compartir
be
todas
sending those
las
presentations to us, sharing them
presentaciones
with
y también
us?
vamos publicarlos en
Yes,
el
we will
sitio web
be
de la
sharing
plataforma
them. We
de
will
la red
be
RAES.
uploading them
Se
to
llama
the
redraes.org. Ahora escribo aquí en el
website, the network's website, redrise.org. I just posted the website
Ahí
in the
tenemos
chat box.
otra pregunta de la
It
señora
seems
Gabriela
as though
Ayón
Gabriela
de
Ayon
FAO Regional. Adelante,
from
señora
the FAO
Gabriela, por
Regional
favor.
Office has a question as well. Go ahead,
Gracias,
Gabriela.
Pablo. Buenos días.
Thank
Nada
you,
más
Paulo.
quería
Good morning.
felicitarlos por
I
todo
just
el
wanted to
trabajo que han
commend you
realizado
all
desde hace muchísimos
for
años
everything that you
con
have
la
been
red de
doing over
adhesión
the
escolar y
years as a
que se está haciendo
contribution
con los
to
países.
the
Entonces, esta es una gran
network
invitación para que
and
trabajemos y
for
funcionemos
fostering the adhesion of
muchísimo más
the
y podamos
countries.
disminuir
This is a
todos
very
los
robust
rezagos
network, and I'm
en
sure
la
that it will
combate y
continue
seguridad
to
alimentaria.
excel for many years and this is an
Muchísimas
opportunity for
gracias,
all of
señora
us to
Gabriela, por
contribute
sus
to
palabras y
eradicating
por
hunger.
el
Thank
apoyo.
you,
Ahora
Gabriel,
veo que
for your
tenemos
remarks and support.
también la presencia del señor Luis Fernando Correa con la mano
Luis
alzada. Señor Luis Fernando, por
Fernando
favor, la palabra
Correa
es
has also
suya.
requested the floor. Go ahead, Luis Fernando.
Gracias, buenos días, un saludo especial a
Thank you.
todos y a todas
Greetings,
las que
warm
nos
greetings to
acompañan en
all of
este
you
importante
joining us here
espacio.
today at this very important
Agradecemos de
event.
manera
I
especial a la
would like
cooperación
to
del gobierno de
extend
Brasil a todos
special
los que
appreciation to
organizan
the
la posibilidad
Brazilian
de
Cooperation
encontrarnos hoy
Agency and
en
everyone
un
else who has made
representante
this
de
event
consolidar
possible
un
today.
programa de la importancia
This has been such a key program for education and nutrition in our region. Of course, we will be joining you with regard to this joint declaration of commitment. Moreover, I would like to share with you how our national development plan in Colombia also shares many different objectives with what we're referring to today. We are aiming to secure universal feeding in a short period of time. We would like to thank you for the opportunity for taking part in this network and for all of us to work together so that we may actually build what we want, so that we may have a program that is of the quality that our children deserve and a program that reaches as many as possible. Thank you for those remarks, Luis Fernandez. We're very pleased to have your support and commitment. Would anyone else care to take the floor? If not, I believe we may move on with our next presentation. Moreover, I would just like to mention that if you have any questions with regard to your country's participation in the network, please let us know in the chat, and there's a brief message in the chat relative to this. It's in English and Spanish and Portuguese. So since no one else has requested the floor, allow me to move on with the next activity. Thank you again to all of you for joining us in this brief dialogue. Now I would like to invite Ms. Karine Santos, the coordinator of PNAE, the Brazilian Sustainable School Feeding Program. She will refer to the concept and methodological proposition of the maturity analysis study conducted on the school feeding programs within the framework of the network. This is a presentation aiming to provide guidelines to the countries moving forward.
Muito obrigada, Paulo. Muitíssimo bom dia a todos e todas. Antes de iniciar a minha fala
Thank you, Pablo.
técnica
Good morning, everyone.
sobre a análise, né,
Before I start
significativa
my
de
presentation
desenvolvimento
on
de
the
programas
indicative
educacionais
analysis
da
of the development
Latinoamérica,
of school feeding programs in
eu
Latin
gostaria de
America
agradecer
and the
aos nossos
Caribbean,
parceiros, a todos os países que estão aqui
let
conosco,
me
a nossa
thank
parceria
all our
ativa
partners
com a
from
FAO
many
e com a
countries,
Agência Brasileira de
our
Cooperação.
fruitful
Muito obrigada por
association
essa
with the
oportunidade.
FAO and
Então,
the
nós vamos apresentar
ABC.
pouquinho a análise
Thank you for the
indicativa de
opportunity.
desenvolvimento
I'll
dos
be
programas
sharing
de
with you the
alimentação
indicative
escolar da
analysis
Latina e
of the
Caribe,
development
para
of
passar
school
a
feeding
gerar o
programs in Latin
nosso
America and
instrumento,
the
né,
Caribbean.
de diagnóstico e
This is
análise
our
detalhada
tool
em cada
for diagnosis
processo, em
and
cada
detailed analysis
desenvolvimento
on
dos
each
programas de alimentação escolar
process
dos nossos países
for for the
cooperantes aqui que
development
participam
of
do
school
nosso
feeding programs
projeto
in all
da
our
América Latina
countries
e Caribe. É uma
as
metodologia
part of our
diagnóstica
project
da
in Latin America
realidade
and the
dos nossos
Caribbean.
programas. Então, os
This is the
senhores
review
compararão.
of the current
Muitas
status
vezes
of
com essa
programs, and
sigla
thus
chamada AMPAI, que será traduzida
you may
aqui como
find
Análise de
these
Maturidade de Programas de
acronym
Alimentação Escolar. É importante que
AMPAE,
tenhamos
which is the
clareza
maturity
de que
analysis of school
todas as
feeding programs,
especificidades dos
AMPAE
governos
in
nacionais
Spanish.
serão levadas
All
em
the
consideração nesse
characteristics of
processo
national
diagnóstico
governments will be
e
taken into
resguardadas
consideration
também
in
por
this
cada país
diagnostic
neste processo de
process, and
construção
we
e
will
de
protect
levantamento de dados.
sovereignty of each
Qual é o
country in this
objetivo da
good
AMPAI?
process
Quais
of
são
data
os
collection.
objetivos neste
What are the
processo?
goals?
Fortalecer
What
a
are the
construção
goals as part of this
conjunta
process?
de
To
uma agenda
strengthen
regional de
joint
alimentação
building of a
escolar,
regional agenda
evidenciar todos os
for
nossos
school feeding,
avanços e os nossos
to
grandes
look
êxitos
at the
nos programas de alimentação
progress
escolar na região,
and
já que estamos aqui
achievements
falando
in our
de
school feeding programs
programas
in the region,
de alimentação escolar que participam
because
desse processo de
this
cooperação há
is a
tantos
school
anos.
feeding
Mostrar as evidências
as
daqueles
part of
temas
this
que ainda
cooperation
requerem
progress.
maior
Look at the
cuidado
evidence of these
ou novas
topics, those
ações,
topics which
tanto no
still
âmbito nacional como no
require
âmbito
additional
regional, pensando no nosso
activities,
grupo América Latina e
both
Caribe, e
domestically and
orientar,
regionally,
isso é
thinking of
muito
Latin
importante dentro
America
dos
and the
nossos
Caribbean.
objetivos,
And this is
orientar
really
as
important
atividades
as part of
técnicas
our
que nós
goals. We have to
poderemos
guide
fazer a
technical
partir
activities
dessa
that
construção
we will be
conjunta sobre o
implementing
diagnóstico
from
do
this
país.
joint
É
construction
importante, pode passar,
this joint building of these diagnoses on the countries. Eventually, we expect a consolidated document with the evidence and the progress and challenges and the multiple roles of countries during the process. This is something we'll build together. Countries will attend technical meetings promoted by this activity. This is a strategic activity by RAES in the region. Each country will appoint a focal point to attend these meetings or these activities. Countries will complete our forms and surveys with a specific consulting effort. And you will also be responsible for approving, for validating all these data. This data collection process is self-informative. Countries themselves will give the response or answers to these questionnaires and surveys, and we'll be validating all these data collected in the assessment of the maturity in each country. The final document we expect, in order to have a good idea of cooperation agency, will be built with all these information, data on school feeding programs in each country, scenario or a snapshot of the current status, goals and methodologies of our study, results found in each country, with maturity analysis, considering charts from the data, a conclusion on the job done and the work done, but more importantly, to support these initiatives, we will offer recommendations on the topics of school feeding programs that require to be priority as part of this technical cooperation. You will be invited to participate in a regional workshop in September to discuss this activity. We will have all member countries in RAE, and let me emphasize how happy we are for being part in this assessment process with the Latin American and Caribbean countries. Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, Karine. This important activity of maturity analysis will support the guiding of the network. I believe we have a hand here. We'll now have another presentation, but we'll ask Alicia to save her question, and we can react to that later. We'll now have presentation by Paulo Seurino, who is the General Coordinator of Food Security and Nutrition from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Brazil. Mr. Saulo, you have 5 minutes for your comments. You are recognized. Thank you, Paulo. It's an honor to be here with you, this group of such senior authorities. Let me greet our colleagues in Brasilia, colleagues in Rome. Ambassador Luisa said, this is one of our favorite topics in Brazilian cooperation and a favorite topic in Brazil when we talk about fighting against hunger. The topic here is school feeding, which is instrumental to fight hunger and poverty. Let me share with you something that has already been referred to, which is the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. Probably you're familiar with that concept. This is an initiative that Brazil submitted to G20 as part of the, because we're chair. The initiative was discussed and negotiated with the G20 member countries. Multiple countries were part of these specific activities on the Global Alliance. And this Global Alliance was the initial design was approved by the ministry meeting with President Lula last year. This was a summit meeting of the G20 leaders this will take place next November to discuss this topic. Global Alliance is an initiative aiming at helping countries to speed up efforts to achieve SDG 2 and the eradication of poverty. The alliance is thought as a set of policies with evidence on efficacy. That is, alliances of countries that are part of the alliance and that they will decide on what policies from this set of policies will be expanded or implemented in their own countries. So we will be requesting help.
Sí, se congeló la presentación del señor Saulo. Esperemos.
Unfortunately, we lost the connection with Saulo.
Se había
Mr.
congelado su presentación por 20 segundos. Si puedes volver
Saulo, we lost your connection for 20 seconds. If you could go back a little bit. As I was saying, the whole structural thought for this global alliance revolves around this set of public policies which are effective and efficient. When we were first discussing the criteria for putting this alliance together, we all knew that school feeding would be one of those policies. No question, public policies which are more effective and efficient, not only for education, but for nutrition, healthcare, sustainable development, social participation, and the creation of human capital. So in this task force group in the G20, we requested a study to see what are the priorities for this alliance. And this study aimed at one of the policies that should be priority is school feeding, as well as a public procurement from local production, a model that RAES has been already adopting. We believe this alliance can help member countries of RAES. It's important to say that the Global Alliance it's not competing with what the RAES is doing, but much on the contrary. This would be a way for RAES member countries can have a better visibility so that we can have additional financial resources and support, thus expanding this network in Latin America. Also, Rockefeller Foundation is leading efforts with other foundations, and they want to offer a sizable amount of financial resources for the promotion of actions on school feeding. Rockefeller Foundation will be our ally in this global alliance, and that may be of benefit for countries. This could be an additional value for that RAES member countries are also member of this alliance, and then they can submit their requirements over there. It is also important to say that under no circumstances this alliance will compete against this RAES coalition. As we've heard Nashla and Israel, RAES could become the national network for Latin America and the Caribbean for this food coalition or school feeding, this global coalition. And we've already said that it's necessary to have something that RAES is already doing. This regional problems are very important to address as a group. we have several things here. And let me close by extending an invitation to all RAES member countries to become members of the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty so that we can work together through RAES, through this coalition and this common effort to move forward in the national programs of school feeding and fight hunger and poverty. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Seolin. It's really important to learn about what the Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty is doing. It's always important to join efforts, like you've put it. In closing our meeting, and we're offering the final follow-up remarks, Nashla Veloso, she is the regional coordinator of school feeding program for Latin America and the Caribbean, will address the floor. Nashla, you have 10 minutes.
Muito obrigada, Paulo. Quero dizer que nós vamos passar uns minutinhos do tempo
Thank you
final
very much, Paulo.
que é 12h30 do Brasil.
I would like to spend a few moments to
Já estamos encerrando. Quero parabenizar a
make some
todos
closing remarks
por suas
and a brief
pontuações
summary. But prior to that, I would like to commend and congratulate all of the individuals present and all of the presenters. You have been very clear. I would also like to thank Saulo for joining us here today and being part of the network. It's an honor to have you with us, and it's also an honor to be joined by FAO. And thank you to all the agencies working closely with us. We are very aware of how positive these efforts have been, and we have been at this for more than 15 years, and we are a network that gives voice to the needs and policy needs and everything else that we have carried out through this same period. Now, we have been at this for 15 years, as I mentioned, and this has been the debut, one could say, of the network this year. And we have we have understood this as a call to be more mature, and we are more mature. And in fact, today we are celebrating this level of maturity that we have as a country, as an agency, and as the Brazilian government. In fact, our minister, Fernanda, Paulo, all of those preceding me have referred to that topic. As they said, this is a point of time in which, and as mentioned by Madam Ambassador Luisa, this is a point in time in which formal adhesion is a necessary step. We became a more mature organization by developing programs. We have trusted each other, and now is the time where we are seeing the formal adhesion to our network. We know who we are. We know clearly what makes us solid. We know what our principles are, and this was mentioned by Israel. Now, this declaration is being signed by the countries because they know and they trust what all of this actually means, because they have been engaged with us in this agenda over the last 15 years. This network clearly defines who we are. I would like to underscore how important it is to have many ambassadors here today. The countries, along with the FAO offices, country offices, have been working on this because you know that the Brazilian government is present in every country. We have other countries working closely with us as well. The key players of this network are the member countries joining us, becoming members. This is not just an activity promoted by the Brazilian government. This is an activity that is being promoted and fostered by all member countries of RAES, of the network, and we will have an agenda with key priorities. We will not only consider what the different countries are doing in terms of activities, but we will also give priority to the agendas of the countries in the network. It's also critical to understand that when you assess program developments, this is something we do together. We are not imposing this on you. Now, on September 11th at 4 p.m. Brazil, we will be holding a meeting with the FAO focal points and the governments that is, that have already decided to join, and those who have not yet decided will be randomly invited going forward. So you have a deadline to send back to us the signed declaration, and you also have to determine who your focal points are by said deadline. We are, again, we're all adults, we're all committed, and so we know that you need to work through all the different documentations together with your governments. So September 27th is a deadline, the deadline that will allow us to peacefully, calmly go through all the paperwork. I will continue to call upon the already designated focal points, and we'll work with the other countries as well. We will begin assessing the different programs. We will start with 5 different countries. We have not defined which countries will be taking part yet. We have an idea, though, and this is a decision that will be made later on. And the countries will take part in the September 11th meeting. Again, this is a process. This is a process involving monitoring and assessing the different topics that the network has covered over the last 15 years. Everything that we have talked about today may leave some doubt in your minds. So the channels of communication will always be open so that you can clear up your doubts. The network platform hosts all the various documents that you may need. That is where you will find the declaration. That is where you will also see that there is a section devoted to frequently asked questions. So any question you have relative to the network, please be sure to post it. Often we are asked if the network is competing with the Global Food Coalition, and the answer is no. Quite the opposite. As mentioned by the president of FNDE and others presiding me, we want to be spokespeople. We want to foster dialogue throughout the various Latin American and Caribbean countries. And we also want to provide support to the global coalition, however possible. Therefore, allow me to make it very clear that we are not competing with this organization. Quite the contrary, we aim to become increasingly more engaged with the global coalition. And I'm mentioning this because Brazil is a co-leader of said coalition. So it makes no sense at all to think that we compete. We are also present at CELAC next week in Panama. There will be a meeting with the Minister of Agriculture from Honduras, leading this issue via CELAC and with FAO. We aim to hold a dialogue, and we also aim to work closer with them at FAO and with our directors, with Daniela, with Israel, and with FAO representatives from the various countries, with all of them, all of you. We have worked together to clearly understand the meaning of the network. The Brazilian government has a very clear notion of all of this, and it's important for all the countries to understand what the network constitutes as well. We are not just directors of school feeding programs. It's important for the ministers to also understand the importance of taking part in this network. That's why we want to make it very clear to the individuals make it very clear that it should be the ministers of education or the ministers of social development who should be signing the declaration as leaders of the various SFPs in the different countries. Just to wrap up, allow me to once again thank you. There are three key words that come to mind right now. One is maturity. We have already secured that. This maturity has allowed us to be here today to grow in adhesion to the membership. We will be consolidating this, and we will see each other at the November event. This will be an in-person meeting with the focal points, and that's when we will have a proper, real ceremony to celebrate the adhesion of the countries joining the network. Now, this maturity has allowed us to hold this in-person event and to have an official in-person signing. The other word that comes to mind is thank you, thank you, thank you to all of the various stakeholders, all of our partners, all of the individuals and institutions who have not been mentioned and who have been mentioned and who have taken part in this unprecedented activity. For FAO, it is very important to be part of this as a secretariat. The other word that comes to mind is partnership. I want to make it clear that it's always better to be together than to work separately, individually. The network is so strong today, thanks to all the various achievements in the countries. We have institutions such as WAPA and what the Dominican Republic and the other countries and agencies have done in their countries is crucial. We have worked closely with the ministries of agriculture and Suriname, for example, present here today, represents from Mexico. All of this makes it very clear that the network is working and we should all be pleased and proud of this. So working together is key, and we will see each other once again on September 11th to refer to the maturity analysis, and then again in person in November to celebrate and embrace our achievements. I want you to grab something, pick something up with your hand, whatever is within your reach. Turn on your cameras, okay, and grab whatever you have within reach, a glass, a piece of paper, a pen, whatever. This is a symbolic glass of wine, if you will, to cheers, to do a cheers and to commemorate the actions. And thank you. Greetings, cheers to all of you joining the network. Let's cheers to you today. Thank you to all of our colleagues and everyone who has joined us here today. Thank you to all the technicians making this possible. So again, a toast to us all. Thank you to the ABC team, to the interpreters, to the school food program teams, to all of you who have taken part. My most sincere appreciation to all of you. Thank you.